Out of the White House on this Friday night. Could you call it cleanup on aisle 47? What they are now saying about a tariff turnaround for some of the most popular foods on your grocery list, plus a different directive. The president ordering the Department of Justice to investigate Bill Clinton and other big-name Democrats when it comes to the Epstein files. How the Attorney General Pam Bondi is now responding. Also this evening, protesters clashing with law enforcement outside of Chicago as a federal judge orders the release of hundreds of migrants. The borders are today with this warning.
Look, they got the right to protest. Have at it. But don't cross the line. It's not okay to be in the country legally. It's not okay to enter the country legally. It's a crime.
Plus, do you remember this? Of course you do. 3 months ago, 3 months basically to the day from the monumental meeting between Trump and Putin. What the administration is telling us tonight about when Putin and Zelensky could meet face to face. But first tonight, price pressure, both for your wallet and politically for the White House. The Trump administration just releasing a laundry list of items that more resembles a grocery list. It's a pullback on many tariffs. Our Kelly Meyer live tonight over at the White House as this list was just released. Kelly, I went through it, you went through it. It's a lot of the foods that we've seen prices go up that have been talked about. Now the White House is pulling back some tariffs.
There is a lot on this list, Blake. Beef, tomatoes, nuts, avocados, coffee, cocoa beans, nutmeg for the holidays. And it's not just food. It's wood, iron, steel, metal, tin. And make no mistake, this is a major rollback of these tariffs. These are the same tariffs the president planned to use to solve the country's economic woes and is now having to scale back because it's costing folks at the checkout line, especially with 2 weeks until Thanksgiving. The U.S. trade rep says Trump's trade policy, though, is working.
We've started to reshape the global trade system in a way that we think is better for America, and so now is the right time to, to release some of these items that the president said he was going to release. And I mean, when you look at Southeast Asia and South America, that's where we get a lot of this stuff. You know, the coffee, the cocoa, the bananas, those kinds of things.
So now is the right time, he says. And even as the president backs down on tariff hikes on imports of coffee, bananas, and beef, he just signed a handful of new trade deals in the last 24 hours and is slashing Swiss tariffs from 15% to 15% from 39%. Blake.
Kelly Meyer live for us tonight over at the White House. Kelly, thank you. With us now, Republican from Texas, Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, who sits on the House Small Business Committee. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us. The news just dropped here in the last hour or so, pulling back tariffs on a lot of the items that you and I and our audience here on News Nation or those listening to us on Sirius XM shop for. And it feels like, and I don't know if you see it differently, that this is an admission that the policy isn't working and it's driving up prices.
No, I think what this is a administration that has its ears open, that recognizes how you negotiate. You got to be able to pivot. You got to be able to be flexible and understand that you can try one strategy, and it has been completely successful. But they are trying one strategy. They're also pulling back on some that aren't working, as opposed to doubling down, which is what we see Democrats do with the Affordable Care Act. You've got an administration that recognizes, hey, we need to make sure that we are supplying, in ease for the price of beef, for coffee, for bananas, for textiles, for some pharmaceuticals.
So
and they're
why do you
pulling
think
back.
inflation?
This is the art of negotiation. It is not putting out one strategy and even when it's not working, refusing to change it. This is showing how flexible and how responsive this administration is.
Why do you think inflation went from 2.4% in March before quote unquote Liberation Day to 3% now?
I think there's a number of reasons. I mean, one, we're looking at, when we're trying to get our tax bill passed, and businesses that are trying to figure out if they're going to invest, if they're going to spend, if they're not. You also had a number of countries, while they were waiting to find out if they're going to have a trade agreement with us. In addition to being on the Small Business Committee, I'm also on Ways and Means, and I'm on the Trade Subcommittee. And I will tell you, looking at the 4 years under the Biden administration, where their trade policy was basically dead, you've got Ambassador Greer, you've got Bessent, you've got Trump that are going out there, and they are knocking these out one by one, but they are being very strategic. There's obviously a plan, and that plan is working to try to decrease people's costs. I mean, this is the whole purpose of our tax bill.
to be clear, inflation went up 22% in the 4 years during the Biden administration. So it's not like this is an overnight problem, but prices are rising. And I was going through the Fed's beige book, which goes all over the country, and they talk to people and they look at what's happening and hear what's happening. You represent parts of the Dallas, Fort Worth area, the suburbs to the north there. And here's what is happening in the Dallas district, Congresswoman. They describe it as economic activity flat, loan demand higher, retail sales lower, wage growth as modest, employment as dropping, and manufacturing prices as going higher. How do you look at this as success with that as the backdrop in your backyard?
Yeah, I don't know who they are, but I'm also looking at, you're getting Fortune 500 companies that are moving here left and right from places like California, Illinois, and New York. And we just had a job fair in August where we had over 500 businesses that are hiring people. They had over 33,000 job openings. This is what's happening. You're looking at energy prices being some of the lowest that we have seen in a decade. That is as a direct result of these policies, as a direct result of the strategy to look at making sure that we are decreasing people's costs and making sure they've got more money in their pockets. Now, we just passed this one big, beautiful bill. The effects of that are just now starting to take place. And whether or not that is outside investment of trillions of dollars into our economy or businesses that are hiring and they're paying more in salaries, this will take time. This was 4 years of basically a war on American business and on the American economy by Biden that we are trying to climb our way out of. This will take a little bit of time. It's not going to turn on a dime. But if you look at prices on energy, you look at prices on eggs, you look at
how much time do you think it? How much time do you think it?
This is decreasing, not increasing.
How much time do you think it can take?
Well, I will tell you, I cannot exactly tell you, but I will tell you the 43 days of our government shutdown did absolutely not help. You want to have people have a resilience. You want to have them have faith in security in our economy, and shutting down the government by our Democrat colleagues absolutely did not help. But we are back open now. We're going to be moving forward, and you're going to see the effects of our massive tax bill start to get some benefit, and that will definitely help. But working hand in glove with the administration, who is being flexible, who's recognizing what the problems are, and are willing to tackle them, I think says a lot about President Trump and the folks that he's picked for his cabinet.
Moving on to the government shutdown now. We are Beth Van Dyne, Congresswoman, Republican from Texas. Thanks for being with us on this Friday night. Appreciate it. The longest shutdown in the country is over, country's history. But could the next funding fight and the next shutdown actually just be around the corner? The bill that the president signed into law Wednesday evening, reopening the government, funds most departments for only 11 weeks until January 30th. If lawmakers don't figure out a fix before the January deadline, Congress risks another partial shutdown. And that means addressing the expiring Obamacare subsidies that were at the heart of this for Democrats. Some on that side of the aisle already hinting that they are willing to shut the government down again if there isn't a deal. To the other side of the aisle now. From California, a Democrat, Mark Takano, back with us, ranking member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. Congressman, thanks for being with us on this Friday night. So the shutdown is over. I think it's fair to say Democrats didn't get what they wanted, right? At least there is nothing tangible that Democrats can point to. And I wonder if you are among those folks who believe that you could possibly vote against this in January if the Affordable Care Act subsidies aren't taken care of.
Well, I voted no with the initial continuing resolution. I voted no on the last vote on Wednesday. And if there is no solution to the expiring enhanced premium tax credits for the ACA health policies, I will vote no again. But
how many folks are like you out there that you know of on your side of the aisle?
Well, I think there was a huge, the great preponderance of my caucus voted no. We wanted to, we were behind the American people getting their health insurance. And it behooves the Republicans to come and negotiate with us and to come up with a solution. So far, I haven't seen an alternative to the enhanced premium premium credits. I've heard the president just enunciate nonsense, non-solutions, as well as Senator Cassidy and Senator. They haven't come up with anything.
Speaking of presidents, it was President Biden, of course, back in 2022 who signed into law the Inflation Reduction Act that extended these Affordable Care Act subsidies. 2022, your party had the White House, your party had the Senate, your party had the House. You voted for this. You could have extended it longer. Did you get it wrong?
No, we didn't get it wrong. We had, no, the idea that we should have extended it for even longer, is beside the point. The point is now that that Republicans intentionally chose through their big ugly law to get rid of these tax credits and to put 22 million Americans at risk of losing their insurance, being priced out of their insurance. There is no alternative that they're proposing. Everything that they're saying about insurance companies, is just kind of belies the point that they're just not coming up with any alternative.
Let me leave you with something that's going on in your home state, Wall Street Journal. The California campaign to introduce a first-of-its-kind billionaires tax. This is an idea from the Healthcare Workers Union. They are for this. Your governor, Gavin Newsom, is against it. It would be a 5% tax for billionaires. Who's got it right, Congressman, the union or the governor? I
haven't had a chance to review this policy, and I'll take a closer look, and maybe you can have me on in the future and we'll talk about it.
I'll take you up on that. Mark Takano, Democrat from California, by the way, about 255 billionaires in his home state. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Still to come tonight here on the Hill, Russia pummels Ukraine in a new series of attacks as the deadly war shows no end in sight. So what are the chances that Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky ever get into the same room? The U.S. ambassador to NATO gives me that very answer. Also ahead.
But Coach was, he was special, and it's tragic that we lost him.
A community mourns the loss of a football legend tonight, murdered in cold blood, doing what he loved, helping kids try to find greatness on and off the football field. We are live in Oakland tonight, and peaceful protests turned to chaos outside of an ICE facility. How a faith-led protest turned violent there today. I'm Blake Burman. I thank you for being with us on this Friday night. There was a whole lot of news, and we get to it on the other side. 4 minutes out. Russian missiles raining on Ukraine overnight after Russia launched a massive drone attack on Kyiv. At least 6 people killed, dozens more wounded. The latest attack comes just 3 months, nearly to the day, after President Trump's historic summit with Russia's Vladimir Putin. The goal of that meeting, of course, was to try to get lasting peace between Ukraine and Russia. But those hopes haven't even come close to materializing. Instead, the U.S. now ramping up sanctions on Russia, while the Ukrainian leader, Vladimir Zelensky, keeps saying his country's survival relies on more funding from the U.S. and Western allies.
Is there a plan B?
No, they understand that we need their support, and if, I hope, God bless, we will get this decision. We have to find alternatives. It's a question of our surviving. That's why we need it very much, and I count on partners.
But concerns are mounting about Ukraine's war efforts in the wake of a $100 million corruption scandal that has top ministers in Zelensky's government resigning. Earlier today, I spoke with the U.S. ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, about where things stand right now. Ambassador Whitaker, thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill. I should note, in Brussels on this Friday evening there in his post. Thank you, sir. So you just got back from Ukraine. You met with President Zelensky there. I wonder what you learned and what he told you.
Well, it's good to be with you. I learned a lot, and it was good to see it with my own eyes. I led a small delegation of my fellow NATO ambassadors from some of the key allied countries to see what's going on. I learned how resilient, first of all, the Ukrainian people are after 4 years of war. President Trump is absolutely right. Peace is the only viable path forward. The killing must stop. I also learned how they innovate. Ukraine is the battle lab of the future, and so to see their innovation at scale and at speed was fascinating, in making sure that the United States of America and our military learn those lessons is critical as well. And at the same time, Ukraine's not waiting around for the United States or our NATO allies to provide them everything they need. They're building it. They're building it at scale, whether that's deep strike capabilities or whether that's the drones and other weapons that are needed. So it was a great trip. The Ukrainian people were incredible hosts for being in the middle of a war, and I saw some real clear indications that they're in the fight for as long as it takes.
It strikes me that you bring up the drones because, there was that scene in the Oval Office with Trump and Zelensky recently in which they talked about maybe a swap involving Ukrainian drones. And just as an average American, I sat back and thought to myself, wait a minute, we have the best military on planet Earth. How is it that they have better drones than us? And it strikes me that that was one of your observations.
Yeah, well, it's because it's battle tested, battle experience, whether that's, all the electronic warfare that's happening or the air defense. But they're also, they're just taking, for example, air defense, and they can create a drone that can go hundreds of kilometers per hour. It was built and designed by people that race drones in order to knock missiles out of the air. I mean, it's really incredibly innovative, and they're iterate on a speed and scale that we just can't imagine right now in peacetime. Obviously, they're in a war, so it's different, but it's like the technology is pretty extraordinary what they're doing.
So about this war, it's been now almost 3 months to the day when President Trump met with Vladimir Putin in Alaska, and it doesn't seem, Mr. Ambassador, that much has changed. In fact, Putin has been ramping up the strikes on Ukraine. The U.S. came back with sanctions, on key oil companies there in Russia. And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said this earlier this week about the possibility of another meeting between Trump and Putin. Then I'll get your reaction on the other side.
I think there was agreement on both sides that the next time our presidents meet, there has to be a concrete result. We have to know going in that we have a real chance to get something positive coming out. And we'd love to see that happen. I mean, we'd love to see this war end. But we can't just continue to have meetings for the sake of meetings.
What are the next steps to get both Trump and Putin in a room again, or do you think maybe that's just not in the cards?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, Secretary Rubio is absolutely right. It's not about just talking. It's about actually negotiating and getting to the resolution of some of these fundamental issues. But, right now, the world faces a stark choice, too, and that is either keep buying Russian oil and support Russia's war machine, or stand with the rest of us in the free world that don't buy Russian oil and therefore don't supply them the lifeblood that they need to continue to prosecute this war. And I think one of the things you're going to see is these new oil sanctions that President Trump has implemented are going to start biting. Together with what Ukraine is being able to do and knock out the oil production, I think you're going to start to see the Russian economy really falter. They're still taking thousands of losses on the front line for very marginal, if any, gains. And, you just see that they may be willing to go for a while longer, but at some point in time, this is just going to become untenable. President Trump knows that, and he's going to be patient.
I got to run, but do you think we ever see Putin and Zelensky in the room together?
I think it's possible. Okay. I would say in the next month or two, most likely not. But I think in the spring, summer timeframe, it could be an entirely different scenario.
U.S. Ambassador to NATO with us tonight here on the Hill. Safe travel, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still much more ahead tonight here on the Hill. A faith-led protest turns into chaos outside an ICE facility. That, the scene just earlier today. How did it get so violent? Plus, a Netflix coach killed. What we are learning tonight about the suspect who murdered a man loved by the players he taught, including stars that have gone on to play in the NFL, when the Hill returns. .6:30 here on the East Coast tonight, 5:30 in Chicago. Some of just the chaotic scenes there unfolding this morning at an ICE facility at the center of Operation Midway Blitz. The detention center, which is in Broadview, has been a frequent target of protesters, as you might know. Nearly 24 people arrested today. Several officers hurt after protesters broke through barriers, spilled into the street as well. The border czar, Tom Homan, saying this.
I was watching the videos before I came out here. When they put hands on a law enforcement officer, they're getting arrested, going to jail. You have a right to protest, but don't cross the line.
A judge, by the way, ordering the release of hundreds of detained migrants by ICE in the Chicago area. Our Natasha Zuvis live tonight in the Windy City with what happened there today and what's going on. Natasha?
Yeah, hi there, Blake. We are tracking 21 arrests at that Broadview ICE facility today, 4 law enforcement hurt total. The facility really has been a target of protests, especially on Fridays throughout Operation Midway Blitz. I do want to pull this up for you to see because DHS already pushing back on the events of today on social media. You can take a look at this. They're posting NewsNation's reporting with the quote, "Womp womp, cry all you want. These criminal illegal aliens aren't getting released like clockwork. Violent rioters have arrived at the Broadview ICE facility to demand the release of some of the worst human beings on the planet. Get a job, you imbecilic morons," end quote. So all of this happening as a federal judge has ordered the release of hundreds of migrants detained as part of Operation Midway Blitz. The judge saying the arrests and detentions violated 2022 consent decree preventing DHS from making arrests without a warrant unless there's probable cause the person's in the country illegally and they pose a flight risk. Now, 13 of those migrants ordered to be released today. That judge also ordering the federal government to look at the cases of 615 migrants arrested during Operation Midway Blitz without warrants as part of that same ruling. And if those people are found to not be a flight risk or to have serious criminal records, they will have to be released on $1,500 bond with monitoring until their cases go before an immigration judge. Now, we know the federal government filed an appeal late last night. Of course, we'll be monitoring the results of that. But as of right now, those releases, those several hundred, set to take place next week, Blake.
Natasha Zuvis in Chicago tonight. Natasha, thank you. Meantime, to the other side of the country now. A California community, players across the NFL, and so many in between. Hundreds now mourning the loss of a beloved football coach. The Laney College athletic director John Beam was murdered Thursday at the college in Oakland, California. Beam, you might know him. He captured hearts nationwide when he was featured in the Netflix documentary series Last Chance U, which follows young, aspiring athletes from difficult backgrounds. They try to make it in football, try to make it in life. He was the head coach at Laney during the documentary.
They have the weight of the world sometimes on their shoulders. Our job is to believe in them so they can believe in themselves.
Police there in Oakland remembering Beam at a press conference today.
John was so much more than a coach. He was a father figure to thousands of not only men, but young women in our community.
The suspect, 27-year-old Cedric Irving Jr., is in police custody tonight. He was not a student of Beam's. However, police say they did know each other. With us now, Ivan Saravia. He is in charge of the student newspaper there over at Laney College. Ivan, thanks for being with us tonight. I know your area is just rocked, your community. I was reading about John Beam, larger than life, revered, empathetic coach who was relentlessly dedicated to his players. Just some of what people are saying today. How's your community doing?
It's been such an incredibly difficult moment for everybody, not just here at Laney, but the greater Oakland area and the rest of the East Bay. Like you showed just a moment ago, the police department, they said their piece about it. I had spoken with a former athlete of his very briefly at Highland Hospital yesterday, and he was very devastated about the moment as well. And also earlier today, Mayor Barbara Lee from Oakland, she also acknowledged the incident, and she gave out her condolences to the family.
You get on Netflix, that's a big deal, right? And this show for so many all across the country, across the world, really, was a big deal as well. Loved following it, knew John Beam. But in the community there, what did he mean, for so many folks there?
I mean, it's kind of difficult to put into perspective what he meant. I mean, he was kind of like the figure at Laney, as clearly exemplified by the, by Last Chance U.
Yeah.
I think everything that was portrayed there was very true to him. He could be a very loud and boisterous figure, but he, with the players especially, he was able to build very deep connections with them.
What do we know about the suspect? Because the police are saying he was, not a player, not a student. Beam was the athletic director there on campus as well, but that they knew each other. Do we know about this connection at all?
Currently, Oakland Police Department has not released any further information besides what you already know. All they said was that he was a former football player at Skyline High School, where Beam used to coach, but they did not cross paths while he was attending there.
What are they doing on campus?
What do you mean by that?
How are they reacting? How are they helping the students and the football players there?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's kind of like a ghost town. There's nobody here, but the college is definitely sending out resources, and just making itself available in the district as well, making itself available for all of the players, the coaches, and everybody that was close to Beam and the people that unfortunately witnessed the event.
I was looking on Instagram today. John Beam sent over 20 of his players, more than, went on to the National Football League, which is absolutely remarkable. One of them, Nashawn Wright, who's a defensive back for the Chicago Bears, posted a picture alongside him, his newborn, and Beam. And it just goes to show the impact that he had on so many all across the country, including his players. Ivan Saravia with us tonight there in the community. Ivan, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Still to come. Yes, here on the Hill. Back to this town and the big story today. A couple of them, really. President Trump trying to turn the tables on Democrats ahead of a big vote next week on the Epstein files. The White House as well making huge moves on tariffs. And speaking of football, why is an NFL player, big name, now apologizing for doing the Trump dance? On the other side. All right, welcome back here on the Hill. President Trump calling for an investigation into several Democrats and businesses over potential connections to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. The president singling out Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, J.P. Morgan Chase, and asking the Justice Department to get involved, saying on Truth Social, quote, "This is another Russia scam with all arrows pointing to the Democrats. Records show," he says, "that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein on his island. Stay tuned." Now, it comes after Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released new emails between Epstein and his former accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. The House, as we now know, is scheduled to vote on Tuesday about potentially releasing all of the Epstein files. Full panel here with me now. Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Megan Hayes is the former director of message planning in the Biden administration. And Mark Short, former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence. Hello to you all. Happy Friday. We just got that news Tuesday for the vote in the House, so there you go, some big news. But here's what I look at, and here's sort of where I want to jump off. Cook Political Report, okay, on Republicans that are in a tight spot, right, at least, for their upcoming races. 8 lean Republicans, 16 toss-ups. I spoke to one of them, Kevin Kiley, the other day about how he's going to vote on the Epstein files, and here's what he said.
I'm very inclined to support it when it comes to the floor. I've said all along on this issue I'm for as much transparency as possible, consistent with protecting the rights of victims. And, I think that the victims and the American people deserve answers.
I play that, Mark, because I wonder for the 24 or so Republicans who are going to have tough races, if that's what we're going to hear and if they're going to vote for the release of this.
Blake, I think you're going to see what we refer to as a jailbreak.
Okay.
Okay. Because I think now that, more or less, the president's capitulated and understands where this vote's going to happen, and he said, okay, now I'm on the offense, you can see all Republicans have every reason in the world to vote to release it. Democrats have always wanted to release it. So I think it's going to be a lopsided vote, not the close one that we were anticipating prior to.
So you think that post from Trump up the number of votes from Republicans?
Oh, sure. I think that actually I think that was always going to happen. I think it's more the other way around. Like he now realizes he's going to lose the vote badly.
He flipped it?
So he's now saying, I'm all in on this.
But the other thing that's interesting, though, is calling for that investigation. If they actually start an investigation, are they now going to say this is under investigation, so we can't release any of the files, even if people do vote for it? So it's sort of an interesting juxtaposition because technically, they're not supposed to release anything that's under investigation. So now, if
all the Democrats have been leaking out anyhow.
100%. But I'm just saying,
it's
a ploy. I think it could be a ploy from Trump to not have these files released, regardless if they vote for it or not.
I think he just knows more he's losing politically, so now he's flipping sides again, where he was during the campaign.
Yeah, and these ads were going to write themselves for these Republicans not voting.
You guys read Whole Hog Politics, as do I. The Epstein case botched, bungled, and busted. Chris Stirewall, quote, whatever is going on, this must now rank among the most colossal failures of administration and communication by any modern American president. What do you mean?
It's a doozy, right? And since January, we could go through Pam Bondi did this, and then she did that, and then they said this, and then they said that, and back and forth. If he didn't do anything wrong, or he didn't do anything more wrong than being a cad in the 1990s and having an unappealing friend like Jeffrey Epstein. If that's it, they have certainly made this so much worse by acting so guilty. They compared to the Russia probe, and I say yes, because Donald Trump made the Russia probe so much worse. He fired Jim Comey, and after he fired him, he was like, why? Because of Russia. What are you supposed to do then? What are people supposed to do? Acting guilty makes you look guilty, and it's really just been sort of a colossal mess up again and again. I do think that what the president was saying with his tweet or truth was that if you come for me, I'm going to hurt prominent Democrats, right? Pam Bondi is going to help me. You think you're just going to hurt me? Right. Well, I'm going to hurt prominent Democrats. Here's what the president doesn't know. Democrats don't care what you do to Larry Summers. Democrats don't even really care what you do to Bill Clinton anymore. He doesn't understand. There's been a generational shift, and the young Democrats will not care what happens to Larry Summers.
Other big story as we came on air tonight was the White House walking back the tariffs on many food items. And Chris, I said to you before the show, I said, I don't mean to be facetious, but do you know of any president who has made the case that my policy is so good that I have to walk parts of it back?
You might say, and certainly there are occasions where you have to make modifications. You have to say, well, this isn't working exactly the way we want, and we're going to change, we're going to move the dials. But in this case, what you have is, back in April, when the administration said, we're going to experience long-term pain, we're going to experience short-term pain for long-term gain. The American people are going to pay higher prices. It is true, but it's going to remake our economy. It's going to do all that stuff. One bad off year election, and these guys are like, whoa, never mind. We didn't know that was the problem, so we're going to dump all this stuff. It points to an unseriousness, and the audience of the American voting public is one thing, but I have to think that for the Supreme Court, for the justices of the Supreme Court, who just listened to the administration say this is a life or death matter, we must have this power, that they're going to say, I don't know about that.
So at the top of the show, I had Beth Van Dyne, a Republican from Texas, and I asked her, I said, look, is this an admission that the policy doesn't work? Here's what she said.
You got to be able to pivot. You got to be able to be flexible and understand that you can try one strategy, and it has been completely successful. But they are trying one strategy. They're also pulling back on some that aren't working, as opposed to doubling down, which is what we see Democrats do with the Affordable Care Act.
Okay, you've been no fan of this from the beginning. Let's throw this out there. But from your view, what are we going to hear from Republicans now? Like, how are they going to defend this?
I don't think they can, Blake. I mean, the reality is that you know, to Chris's point, if they'd actually said there's going to be some short-term pain because we're going to reorganize this, that's one thing. But that's not what they said. They said that every other country is going to be paying the tariffs. No American's going to pay a tariff. Money is going to be rolling into the Treasury. This is not going to increase costs. At the same time, they say, we're going to lower costs by reducing tariffs. I mean, it makes no logical sense. And so, I mean, the laws of economics still Smoot-Hawley 100 years ago lesson still applies today. When you do these massive protectionist plans, it hurts American consumers.
You know, I heard three main things, Megan, out of Democrats this week. I heard about Epstein, and then I heard about more Epstein, right? And I just, the point is, like, this is there before Democrats. Are they going to have the ability to take it, or are they going to go down another hole and sort of swing and miss on this one?
So I'm hopeful that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I am a Democrat, so I realize that may be a challenge.
Okay.
But I do think that they ran a very good, when the government was shut down, they ran on affordability. It's what helped them win in the elections last Tuesday or a couple of Tuesdays ago. The affordability conversation is real, and I think if Democrats can stick to that, that will help them with their voters. But also, the health care affordability is a huge issue for them. And so we need to learn to walk and chew gum. So they are going to have to talk about Epstein and affordability at the same time.
I heard you say if. Do you think they will do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, look, their answer to affordability is nationalizing grocery stores.
That is one person's answer. That is not everyone's answer.
That's an important
we
person
did win in Mississippi and Georgia
on
Mondami.
It's not just him. It's also AOC and Bernie is where the energy is in your party. So, like, the solutions to them are not really free market.
Real quick, do they have the ability to stay on that message, do you think?
They don't have to stay on the affordability message because affordability will stay on the affordability
Okay,
message.
fair. Meantime, how about this? You know the Trump dance? Became a viral sensation. Well, now one NFL star is apologizing for it. He is, of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Did the dance after he scored the touchdown here in D.C. in front of the president. You might remember it last weekend. And now Amon-Ra St. Brown is saying this.
If I offended anyone, I do apologize. I did not mean to offend anyone. It was just, we're having fun. You know, if any president was at that game, I would, if they had a dance, I would have done it. Had nothing to do with who the president was.
I'm like, come on, Megan. He doesn't have to apologize for that, does he?
It kind of shows where we've moved on Trump, though, in the national conversation. A couple of months ago, I don't think you would have had people apologizing, and now all of a sudden you do. But I sort of am. I don't think he meant anything by it. I think he was just trying to be respectful, if I'm being really honest here about what I think was happening.
Oh, yeah, I think it's totally fine for him to have that celebration dance. As you said, the president was there. Right. I'm waiting for the Democrats to apologize for Colin Kaepernick taking a kney in the national anthem.
Oh, there you go.
Bringing back the classics.
I'm waiting for a Democratic president to have a dance.
There you go. Fair enough. You got the best Sunday show in the biz, my man. Chris Steyerwalt, Hill Sunday. 10 a.m. Eastern. Who you got this weekend?
Well, we've got Rick Crawford. He's Intel Committee Chair in the House. We've got Joe Morelli. He's a Democratic leader, and he's on approach. But I tell you what I really want to talk to you about. We've got Alan Gelzo, the foremost Abraham Lincoln historian in America, and we're going to talk about the USA 250, the Gettysburg Address, and the National Pact, our covenant in liberty.
By the way, keep that graphic up. You got a moving animation there.
We're a pretty big deal.
Stepped up your game on this.
We have white mugs now, and we have a moving animation, so we're a pretty big deal.
Catch you 10 a.m. Here on News Nation. Chris, thank you. Megan, thank you, sir, as well. Appreciate it, Mark. All right, still to come. Other side of the break. Turkey stuffing and a side of politics. You know, like, you don't want to do that stuff at the Thanksgiving table, but I'm going to show you something on the other side of the break to explain why it might not happen this year. We're just getting home on this Friday night, trying to catch up on today's top stories. Here's some of what's trending over at thehill.com. Green will introduce bill for aggressively phasing out H-1B visas. That, of course, is the Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her announcement coming days after President Trump defended the visas, saying the U.S. doesn't have enough people that are, quote, that have, quote, certain talents to not bring in foreign workers. Also trending, how about this? Doritos, Cheetos go dye-free amid MAHA pressure, but are they healthier? Pepsi announcing today that both the iconic snacks would be getting new Simply Naked versions without artificial flavors or dyes, thus making them colorless. You can see the difference between the old ones and the new ones on the left and the right. There we go. All of this as the administration pushes food companies to follow its Make America Healthy Again agenda. But if you're worried, don't worry. The original Cheetos and Doritos will still remain as well. Finally tonight, supermarket chain asks customers to bring in pennies, offers double their value in gift cards. Market 32 and Price Chopper stores are asking shoppers all across the Northeast to help them out after the U.S. Mint pressed its last penny on Wednesday. It will be a one-day only event on Sunday, so if you don't win the nearly $1 million Mega Millions jackpot tonight, at least you can get a jar of pennies. To check out those stories and more, all you have to do is head on over to thehill.com. All right, time for my take this evening. You know, it's less than 2 weeks now until we all gather around the table, have a nice Thanksgiving meal with family and friends. For some, it can be a little awkward, but maybe after a few drumsticks and some drinks, politics start to creep in, right? But how about this for an order of size dose of optimism? According to a new NBC News poll, the overwhelming majority of people who say they are either a Republican or a Democrat also say they have a close friend from the other side of the aisle. But just like the Thanksgiving table, there's a spread, with more Republicans than Democrats saying they've got a friend with a different view. Now, I'm not suggesting that political animosity is no longer here. We all know we are far from that. But just a reminder, we've seen some famous friendships before. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush sharing the same stage. W and Michelle Obama as well enjoying each other's company, just to name a couple. So hopefully the poll holds, the numbers grow, and those divides among friends and family create more tension, no more tension rather, than who is taking home all those leftovers. And thank you for watching us tonight. I'm Blake Burman. We'll be back on Monday. Elizabeth Vargas reports.